All right, today have Maurice Williams on. I'm super excited for the conversation. As you guys know, we are planning a huge theme for the months of March and April, health and wellness. So we're going to talk about and deal with the body today. And then later on down the road, we're going to deal with mental health. We're going to deal with financial wealth, spiritual health, and all of those things. So we're trying to make sure that we totally and completely cover all facets of wellness as much as we possibly can. And we're going to start by talking to Mr. Maurice today. Mr. Maurice, how are you?
Man, I'm doing well, man. I'm blessed. Can't complain.
Well, man, I'm thankful that you accepted the invitation, man. I've been looking forward to talking to someone, a professional that is. I told you a little bit before that I'm currently trying to get my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and then after that, work towards the physical therapy route. And so, uh, as we go and talk about this topic and go throughout the conversation, man, if you have any nuggets of wisdom to share, please do so. For a struggling brother who's in college right now, so definitely
Sure.
definitely can use the wisdom, man. But yeah, I want to just make space now for you to introduce yourself. Tell people about who you are, where you work, things that you do, etc. So,
Sure. So my name is Maurice Williams. As you guys know by now, I am a uh, university professor here in Henderson, Tennessee at Freed Hardeman University. My official title is Assistant um, Professor of Health and Human Performance. So I teach classes that are related to health and human performance. So from weight training to more difficult classes like motor learning, biomechanics, things of that nature. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Letitia Williams. We have four kids, aging from the age range of as young as 4 to as old as 16. Big fan of sports, love sports. Part of the reason why I pursued my career, played football growing up, and Christian, love to promote and advocate for Christians taking care of themselves and taking care of the temple that God has given all of us. And um, I also do personal training. That's used to be my full time. I had a personal training studio in Washington D.C. I shut that down last year and moved here to Tennessee. So I've been here for a little over a year, but I'm still very involved in personal training on a part-time basis, and also from a teaching perspective as well. I travel the country and teach other fitness professionals for helping them with their continuing education. So that's it.
well, man, hey, look, that's fantastic. I wanted to actually ask you. You reminded me when giving your intro. Um, so I recently saw on Facebook that you went to the Under Armour All American camp or football camp, if I'm not mistaken, or was it just for all athletes or just football athletes?
It was football and volleyball.
Okay. How was that, man? If you don't mind sharing your experience with dealing with those teenagers and so forth.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was Under Armour's first time. Under Armour has put on the All American game for football for years. I want to say over 10 years. For volleyball, I think just in the past couple of years. But this is the first time they introduced a recovery component to the week. So the volleyball players are there for about a half a week. The football players are there a little bit longer. And these are the top athletes. All of them are going to Division I schools. If you know who Travis Hunter is, you probably heard of him because of the guy that said he was going to Florida State and he switched to Jackson State, so he was there. Another guy by the name of Tyler Booker, who's the number 1 offensive lineman in the country, going to Alabama. The number 1 defensive lineman going to Texas A&M. So you name it, they were there. And the same thing on I don't know all the volleyball players, but all of them are going to all the top schools as well. But this is the first time they put a recovery component to it. So I was a part of that recovery team. So they brought in all the latest and greatest and well-researched recovery tools that Under Armour did research on, and they used professional athletes like Steph Curry. They did all the research on that just to make sure it was profitable and it was, it does what it says it's supposed to do. So they brought it to Florida and allowed the high school athletes to use it, and we got good feedback from it, and hopefully it'll be something that will continue next next year, or not. I guess it is this year now in December of this year.
It's good that they brought in that recovery component because I mean I don't think people actually realize how important it is to recover, and so especially these guys playing at a high level every time they step onto the field or the court, and so I think that's a huge thing. But I tell you one thing, man. After following you on Facebook, I was super excited to get your thoughts on why Alabama and I guess I'll say Texas A&M
Oh,
and so forth. We're going to be powerhouses, man. If I didn't tell you by now, man, I'm from Alabama, grew up, I was born,
okay.
reared there, and so huge Alabama fan, man. And I'm curious on what your take was about the Alabama Georgia game, man. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think Alabama is. I respect Alabama a lot. I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, and we used to. That used to be us years ago when I was growing up. Miami dominated like Alabama's doing right now. Um, you know, I think if they were to play that game again, I think Alabama would win it. And then if they, I don't know who would win the rubber match. They're so close in talent. I think having Jamison Williams go out, I think his name is Jamison Williams, get injured, I think that was huge for Alabama. I think it might have been quite a little bit different, but Georgia, I mean, they've been building. They've been building for a couple of years now, and you saw that coming. I think the SEC championship game was, I don't know what happened with that. They didn't. I won't say they showed up. I guess they. I don't know. Maybe they. You don't want to say they did it on purpose so that they could get the match again, but the outcome, I was not surprised. Was surprised at the score, though. I was expecting it to be a closer score. I wasn't expecting them to end up winning by, I think it was 2 touchdowns. But and Bryce, Bryce Young didn't play as well. I guess he got the Heisman jinx or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna see them, those two schools competing. Might as well get used to it because their talent's only gonna get better. With me going to this Under Armour event, most of the guys there were from Texas A&M. There's about 15, 16 guys out of 100 were signed with Texas A&M, and then right behind them was Alabama and Georgia. So, I mean, those three teams are going to dominate for the next 5 to 10 years easily.
Well, man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, as a competitor, as a fan, but not only as a fan, as a competitor, man, I just love seeing when athletes compete at the highest level. But at the same time, there being this great level of challenge that's taking place. Not one team running over the other team, and then it's just constantly them being fed because of they have brought fear and put it in every other team. But I look forward to the challenge, man. So I think it's a big deal to I don't know, sort of look at athletes with a great deal of respect, especially Williams going out in the championship game. A lot of people, had a different perspective as how the game could have turned out if he would have stayed healthy. But I want to kind of feed off that idea of him going out of the game, him getting injured, and just his body in general. As we sort of lead into the first question, I mean, when you think about his health, you think about how athletes need to care for themselves, and you mentioned the recovery component that Under Armour is adding to their camp overall. Why do you think it is so crucial for people to care for themselves? Why do you think personal care is so important?
The short answer is, God has blessed us all with our bodies, right? And if we're allowed to live a long life, how we live that life is going to be based upon how we take care of our body. So God has given us everything that we need to be able to provide for our bodies. He said, here's your body. If you exercise it, if you move it, you'll reduce your chance of having disease and injury. Here's the food that I've blessed you with on this earth. If you eat the food that I've made, more of that than man-made food, then you'll reduce your chance. And I say reduce your chance because there are always cases of individuals who are healthy and then find out they have So with respect to why we should, take care of our bodies, from a nutritional standpoint, the Lord has blessed us with everything that we need from the food that He's provided us. We know there's man-made food. That's not the food that we should be putting in our bodies, and we know when that happens, disease kicks in. I also mentioned the fact that there's always anomalies. There's always people on the outside of the norms that are healthy, but then they still end up with some sort of issue, some sort of health issue. And I don't know the answer to that. Only God knows. But I trust I trust His knowledge. I trust His wisdom when it comes to that. So overall, I mean, we should take care of our bodies because God wants us to. I mean, God has given us that body to. It's His temple, right? So it's a representation, or should be a representation of Him. We know that He provides and He cares, so we should do the same thing for our body.
Here's one of the primary problems that I'm presenting with. So, I mean, obviously, all of that is great, right? When you think about taking care of your body, because it's a temple that belongs to the Lord, which He has given us, and we're sort of stewards over what He has given us in our body. And we think about that, and it's like, well, okay, I know God has given it to me. I know God has provided the resources for me to have to be able to take care of my body. But most people say, well, man, those resources have been collected and gathered up by the powerful. And so it almost seems like caring for our bodies is so impractical. And I'm not gonna lie to you, like it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure you know this, but man, going to the grocery store, it feels like you nearly have to be rich, if not very well off, to get the proper nutrition, to get the proper supplements and gear that you need to be able to provide for your body. So I guess the question is, like, is caring for your wellness, like, is caring for our wellness practical?
I believe it is. We just, I think, as Americans, we tend to think that if it's more expensive, it is better. So we feel as if, oh, I can't really eat healthy because it's going to cost me a lot. To a certain degree, I can respect that. You think about grocery stores like Whole Foods that are kind of dominating the grocery store market when it comes to promoting healthy foods. But man, you can Aldi. I don't know if you guys are, Aldi's and people who are listening to the podcast, but places like Aldi or grocery stores like Aldi or something similar to that, Lidl or Little, I think that's the name of the another European grocery store that is similar to Aldi. They have organic stuff. They have stuff that is healthy, and it doesn't cost. Excuse me, it doesn't cost as much as maybe a Whole Foods or my favorite store. I love Trader Joe's. So you can shop. You can shop at Aldi and make sure you get the healthy stuff, and it won't cost you. It'll cost you half probably is what you would spend at your whatever your local grocery Giant. I know when I was in DC it was Giant or Safeway. Here in Henderson, here in Tennessee, it's Piggly Wiggly and I think it's Cash Saver are the local ones that are here in Tennessee. But also your farmers market. When the farmers market when they're in season, the farmers market here is so cheap. It's so cheap. We can get all of our shopping done most of our shopping done at the local farmers market. So we can afford to eat healthy, and it's not going to cost us a whole bunch. And then we can also afford to take care of our bodies too. You don't have to pay for a gym membership. You don't have to hire someone like me who's a personal trainer. I mean, if you have social media now, YouTube, Facebook. I mean, there's so many free resources, and not just free resources where you can't trust the individual. Like these are reputable, degreed, experienced individuals that provide free information when it comes to exercise. So really no one has any excuse unless unless you're just bedridden or something along those lines, God forbid, or those things do happen. But outside of that, if we really want to take advantage of getting our bodies in shape and staying healthy, we can do it.
Man, see, and thank you for just breaking that down because a person like me, and especially talking with other people, you almost get this sense of being overwhelmed because you feel that okay, I have bills that I got to pay, I have this and that that I'm paying for, and I feel like I can't give as much to my body as I would like to, and it's because it's so expensive. And I guess one thing, if we had to just break this down even further, one thing that I think most people, including myself, often become a little bit confused and overwhelmed with is learning exactly what our diets should consist of, right? So we know about these the various grocery stores that we can go to. For example, up here in Nebraska, my wife and I shop at Baker's, which is it's a chain of Kroger, and so it's decent. You get coupons if you're a rewards member, then you get up to 20% off on what you purchase. But other than that, it can be a little bit expensive, and I guess what sort of confuses people the most is like, okay, what should my diet consist of? So let me ask that question to you. What should a balanced diet consist of when going to these grocery stores?
Sure. So, and I'll just throw this resource out there because it's a company that I believe in. I'm certified through them. There's a company called Precision Nutrition. Outside of being a registered dietitian, they probably fall right beneath that when it comes to respect with nutrition, and they have an easy approach. So they have this plate. Actually, they have various types of plates where they show you how many servings of carbs, protein, et cetera, should go on your plate each meal. So they have a regular plate, they have kind of a vegan plate, they have an athletic plate, et cetera. So if we're going regular standard, hey, I don't even want to lose weight. I just want to make sure I'm eating healthy. Then you want to have a fist to like a fist and a half. But, well, let me back up because it depends on male or female. Female, half a fist to a fist of protein. Male can be a fist to a fist and a half. Your vegetables, unlimited. Unlimited amounts of vegetables. You can load your plate up with vegetables. No one has ever really gotten unhealthy or overweight from eating too much vegetables. Fruit, you want to minimize the fruit because of the high sugar, even though it's healthy sugar, if the person is looking to lose weight, you do want to minimize the amount of fruits that you eat, but keeping it simple with things like apples and berries, strawberries, blueberries, you don't really have to worry about the high sugar content. So you can Google fruits that are low in sugar, and apples will be on there, berries will be on there. Water or tea. So no, I know people drink coffee, but coffee's not really recommended. Probably more so just for the caffeine, because I think we're over caffeinated as a country. Nothing wrong with maybe 1 cup a day, but not several cups. But it should be more water and or tea, just because of green tea and all the effects, all the benefits rather that you can get from drinking green tea. And that is between the proteins, the carbs, and then with respect to fats, I failed to mention fats. Fats are important, so you want to do some minimal amount, maybe like a teaspoon or something along those lines. Avocado is a good source of that. I'm trying to think of some of the other oils that people cook with. My wife always uses olive oil. Olive oil is great. So anything along those lines with respect to just healthy eating is you can do that. So a sample meal may be something like a chicken breast with asparagus. Maybe it's cooked in the olive oil. Obviously, you can do a salad with blow the salad up, make it as colorful as possible. Throw some avocado in there, balsamic vinaigrette or something along those lines for the dressing. Or if you don't want to do a salad, then you can do the chicken breast, as I mentioned, with asparagus. And then maybe your dessert consists of a bowl of, berries, something like that. Can you do bread, and can you do some of the starchy carbs like pasta and rice and potatoes? Sure, you can do those, but just you don't want to do them on a regular basis, and you want to just be careful on your portion sizes. So what I recommend to my clients, you can never go wrong if you do protein and a bunch of vegetables.
See,
Every
and that
meal, protein.
That sounds so. Yeah, I was about to say that sounds super simple too. I mean, I don't. It just a question that just crossed my mind. I don't know what your diet consists of, but I know my family, my wife and I, we're vegan. Where I'm vegan, she's more vegetarian. But so I don't consume meat or animal products at all. Do you have, I guess, any recommendations for people who may not eat meat as far as what their plate should consist of?
Sure. So with respect to that, you're going to do just, you could do some meat substitutes. Um, Soy products are typically high with individuals that are, or used a lot with individuals that are vegans. Beans, legumes, lentils, all those sort of things. The thing about that is you want to make sure, because when you don't eat meat, there's certain vitamins and minerals that are in the meat that you just are not going to get from just eating beans. So you want to make sure to make it a complete protein that you combine something like beans and rice together, or beans and vegetables together, so it can get as close as possible to what you're missing from meat. And then most of the vegans that I know you mentioned the oats, they you have to supplement. So you're going to have to probably do some sort of supplement that you can, you know, you'll speak to your physician with respect to that if you're lacking in anything when they do your blood work.
Yeah, so I think, and just speaking to the supplement part, I know for sure one of the things that we were sort of warned about was, the vitamin B12, and then iron, being those things that we would lack from not eating meat. Uh, so usually, I guess for me, what I do, I do eat a lot of beans, rice, or other starches like potatoes or something like that, or noodles, and I usually go in to the store and I will buy something like Beyond the Meat or Beyond Meat, which is really really good. I mean, it's made of vegetables, beans, and stuff like that. Just sort of, it looks like meat, man. Like it really does look like meat, but it's not, and it's very fulfilling, and things like that. But I guess one of the hardest thing that people have with respect to whether they're vegan, vegetarian, or whatever they may consume meat or not, is just what to put on their plate. So I think all of that is helpful, especially the fit size. I've seen some plates that gives those illustrations. But what was the name of that place one more time? I was going to try to copy that down and put it in the show notes.
Sure. It is Precision Nutrition.
Okay, Precision Nutrition.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, got you. Thank you for that, man. Uh,
What, you're
go ahead,
welcome.
go ahead.
One other thing I wanted to mention with respect to that question about nutrition is when it comes to protein, if you're a vegan, or if you're not a vegan and you're just tired of like eating meat, or you don't want to eat meat, you can do a protein shake. Obviously, it's not the same as chewing food, but it's a good substitute. And I mean, it's a supplement, so it will supplement, you know, your diet. So I know with some of my clients, I usually recommend that they do one meal replacement or one protein shake per day as a replacement of a meal, just because they know they're controlling their calories, and it's probably going to be less than what they would take if they had a regular meal, just to help them with reducing that calorie intake while they're hopefully burning off more than they take in.
Absolutely right. So I guess in respect to that, man, one of the things that I wanted to ask you too in regards to this idea of just wellness in general. So I get asked a lot by people that our group sort of speaks to on campus, or whether it's my wife and I just chit chatting about fitness overall. It's this idea of wellness and what exactly is it and what it consists of. So I just want to present that question to you, man. What exactly is wellness, and what is it all about?
So I teach a wellness class here on campus called Lifetime Wellness. And if you just look at the basic definition of wellness, it is supposed to be the absence of disease. And I put my quotes up because just because you don't have a disease doesn't mean you're well. So I like to say it is the absence of disease, but it also means that you're thriving, right? You wake up in the morning and you feel energized. You go to bed at night and you feel like, hey, I've accomplished the day. Um, from a financial, because it's more than just fitness and nutrition. It's financial, it's spiritual, it's community involvement. So I always ask my students after we go through the definition, I'll say how many. I'll start off by saying how many of you guys feel like you're pretty well right now, like you're in pretty good shape. You think your health is great. A lot of them will raise their hands. And then when we go through the real definition of wellness, and I'll say, okay, now that you fully understand what wellness is, how many of you think you're well? And I'll get like maybe one or two students raise their hand. So like there's fitness, and then there's health, and then there's wellness. But wellness just encompasses everything. So if you're lacking any of those things, so if you have stress because you don't have a job, you can work out and you can eat and all those things. It's going to affect your health. So therefore, with respect to like you can eat really well and you can work out 5 days a week, etc. You're in tip-top shape, your BMI is great, your body fat's good, but you're stressed out because you don't have a job, or you have people in your family that are dealing with COVID, or spiritually you don't have a connection with God, like you're not well. So that's the definition of wellness.
Man, so let me ask you this: given how important wellness is, I mean, how in the world do we achieve a lifetime of wellness, of abundant wellness? Like, I don't want it to run out, as I heard one person say. Like, I don't want to be well for a week, and then after that, it's like, man, I fall into this slump, and I feel like there's just no way I can come back for it. Or what if I, all of a sudden gain an injury, right? And I can't work out anymore. And again, as you stated, wellness isn't just tied to working out, but there's so many other characteristics of it that many people don't consider. So, I mean, how can we make this a lifetime achievement and we don't lose it?
My opinion is just like our Christian walk. It is an every day you're starting all over again. I won the battle today against Satan. I can't think that I can just do whatever I want, like I'm good. This is never going to happen to me again. I'm never going to be tempted again. I've overcome that. Like I'm good. Like we tend to think sometimes, and then we fall back the next day, and next thing you know, by the time it's time for us to put our head on the bed, we're like, oh man, I really did not have a great day today. So it is a constant, hey, what am I going to eat today? How well am I going to eat? What sort of exercise am I going to get in today? Am I going to pray? Am I going to read God's word? Who can I encourage today? Am I working on getting out of debt, right? I'm trying to cover all the aspects of wellness. I think that's how we have to approach it. Look at the whole wheel of wellness. I think there are like 9 or 10 things in that wheel. And we have to look at it each day and say, all right, here's how I'm going to attack each one of those. And we really can't take any days off, because if we take a day off as a Christian, we know what happens. It's the same thing that happens when it comes to achieving wellness. So I venture to say a lot of us, including myself, we've had lots of moments where we've not been well. And it's hard to just maintain a whole lifetime of wellness. So, but it can be done.
Man, I never thought about looking at it as like a wheel and looking at each of those characteristics maybe as being a spoke on the wheel and dealing with each one of them as we continue throughout life. I know for me, ever since I've learned about everything that's sort of included with wellness, I've tried to deal with each aspect of it individually. Maybe deal with finance and spirituality on one day, and then try to attack something else the other day, rather than trying to attack everything at once. Because I don't know about anyone else, man, but I'm not great at multitasking. In fact, I won't even classify myself as a good multitasker, because I can't fully devote 100% of myself to anything that I'm trying to do at the same time. So I mean, it can be kind of difficult and kind of overwhelming at the same time. But I know that people who are truly dedicated, they often feel that if they fail in one area, then everything falls down, and it's not the case. So yeah, I think it is achievable. I do want to talk about this idea of God and where He fits into our overall wellness. obviously we know, we look at God and we know him to be the creator. We know him to be the one who governs our lives, who governs our conduct, our speech, everything. And so you have to think that, okay, God has to fit somewhere when it comes to my overall wellness in general. So I want to present that question to you, man. Where exactly does God fit in when it comes to our overall wellness as people, as Christians?
I mean, as a Christian, I'd say it's number one. And when I teach my classes, fortunately, I teach at a Christian university, so I can bring in a Christian, and we're encouraged to bring in Christian world views into any of the material that we're teaching. So when I'm covering this particular topic, like the topic of wellness, I always start off with the spiritual, right, first. Um, God has provided. I mean, has provided for us, and He wants us to take care of what He has given us. I really think it's because we're only as good with our Christian walk, raising our families, being an influence to others, um, evangelizing, etc. We're only as good as our body is. So if we are diseased and not exercising and not eating healthy, I mean, it's going to affect the way we raise our families, the way that we go out and talk with individuals. Maybe we don't even talk to individuals because we're embarrassed to. So God has given that, and that's physically something that individuals can see. And no, I'm not saying that you have to look a certain way to have wellness or to be physically fit, but it does help when you at least somewhat look like you're exercising, or you're trying to take care of yourself. So I mean, it's God fits right in. He's important.
It's interesting that you even brought up the fact of, let's just say, the physical side of it, because I know as a preacher, one of the things that I see oftentimes that is sort of common across the board with most preachers, not all, but most, they lack in two aspects of wellness very clearly. Number one, they lack in the physical or the fitness of wellness. They lack in the spiritual, not the spiritual, but the financial side of wellness. They're really bad at those two, and I see that often. And it's almost like you stated, you want to at least look like or be able to do the things that God asks of us to do, and those aspects of wellness can definitely be beneficial. If I have the money to do something or help someone, then I can God can use me as a tool to benefit that person. If I have the physical ability, to bend down and help pick up a box maybe, or help someone to move, then God is using me as a tool to assist that person. So these are important aspects that I think not only preachers, but just Christians in general need to be able to understand and apply to themselves in order to live a more fulfilling and lasting life when it comes to wellness. So um, one of the other questions that I had for you was, I mean, how can improving our relationship with God through prayer and through study and application of His Word, how can all of that aid us in achieving a lifetime of wellness?
Well, I mean, you think about scripture, certain scriptures that we talked about our bodies being the temple. I think that's in First Corinthians, if I remember correct. First Corinthians and Romans, can't remember. And then the scripture that speaks in reference to bodily exercise profiting says profits little, but it still says that it profits. I think that's in James, if I remember correctly. So understanding and then looking at examples of individuals um, who looked a certain way and who appeared to be fit. You think about people like Samson or individuals similar to that. I think we come away with the understanding that God does expect us to care for our bodies. So if we're in His Word and we're studying and reading it, then we have to walk away with the fact that, hey, God really does want me to take care of my body. So I better start watching how I eat. I better start watching how I move my body. I better start watching how I treat people and how I talk to them. All those sorts of things. So Yeah, I think that's a great question.
You know, one of the biblical characters that I think about in regards to being well and as it relates to wellness, the characteristic of fitness. I often think about Paul. I know many people may not think about him, or he may not come to mind. But if you think about all the miles that this man traveled to
Yeah.
evangelize and teach other people, and then all of the times that he referenced sporting events and sort of relay that to the Christian walk, I'm willing to bet that Paul was in pretty good shape. I mean, there's no way he could have done everything for the kingdom of God without having at least the physical aspect of his wellness in place. And then, of course, he speaks about the financial side and other characteristics of wellness that are super important when it comes to the Christian walk. And so, again, a lot of this stuff is super important. And I think that uh, to understand it is just the first step of it, but to apply it is a whole new level, right? It's just making that this idea of receiving wellness, this abundant life of wellness, even that more simpler, even though it can without having to super complicate things. So one of the last questions that I have for you is, why is personal interest in one's own wellness important? Like what benefits will it provide? And I guess I'll just sort of give this as an explanation. So one of the things that I hear oftentimes, like you know, I go to church or something like that, and people are like, man, you've lost a lot of weight, or you're cutting up, you're pretty fit guy. And they was like, well, you're young, once you get older, that probably subside. And I'm thinking like, nah, this is my life. Like there's no way I'm just gonna let go of my body. I try to let that energy, that same motivation, uh, uh, transpire throughout the rest of my life. So when it comes to finances, when it comes to spirituality, and one thing that I often get in return is, well, what benefit is that? You alluded to First Timothy 4:8, for physical exercises of limited value or profited little. The idea, like you stated, I mean, when it comes to the physical side of wellness, it doesn't say that it's absolutely unnecessary or it doesn't profit anything. But when it comes to the spiritual side, it's of much more importance. So we should give a little bit more credence to that versus the physical side of it. But that's usually what I get in response, man. So I'm just curious, what do you think about that? What benefit does it provide us to have interest or show interest in our own wellness?
Yeah. Um, I'll say this. I have two clients, a husband and wife. The husband's in his 90s. Uh, he is in his mid 90s now, and I think his wife is approaching early 90s. And if you looked at them, you would think they were probably in their 60s. And it's because their entire lives they've remained active. So they still live together. They don't have any limitations or restrictions. I mean, they have some aches and pains because, right, our body is old. It's not the way it used to be. So God didn't design our bodies to live forever. So there is going to have to a certain degree, certain things are going to start to break down. We might move a little bit slower. But they, as far as I know, don't have any major issues, health issues. They're able to remain independent. They're able to travel. They're retired now, but they both still do some like volunteer type work. These are the reasons why, right? I don't know about anybody else, but as I get older, I don't want to be on popping pills in a convalescence home or anything like that, and nobody's coming to visit me. That's not the way I want to end my life. Knock on wood. I want to go into the grave like maybe running a marathon or something like that. Meaning, I want to remain active, right? Up until the moment that I leave this earth. And I think that should be everybody's goal. And God has set it up that way where we can do that, right? We can do that if we just follow what He tells us. So those are the reasons why it's important. A lot of people don't fully appreciate the importance of remaining independent until you are not independent anymore. So if nothing else, do that, right? Be able to provide and care for yourself. Maybe you have some help from your son or your daughter, or something along those lines, your husband, wife. But overall, you want to still be able to, wake up and take care of yourself.
You know, you made me think about Second Timothy 4 verse 7, and I mean, I love how you stated that, I would rather die running a marathon or running that marathon and then end up in a grave that way versus really been alive, but you're not alive, sitting in a home waiting for people to, to come and give you pills that are really not doing anything for you, but just lessening the pain as inevitable right now. And, I mean, that's how I want to live too. I really, I really, really take that to heart because I think, growing up, I mean, I've seen my family members' bodies sort of decay, and they're alive, but they're not able to do the things they once did, and they're okay with that. And so over time, it just continue to decrease. And so I'm just going to read this verse really quick. It's Second Timothy 4:7. Made me think about that. And here Paul is writing to Timothy, and he states, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the course. I have kept the faith. In the future, there is reserved for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have loved His appearing. Now, of course, many people will be quick to say, "Well, he's speaking spiritually here," but I mean, if you read the Bible, Paul dealt with many physical battles, and those physical battles where he was beaten. I mean, he couldn't see as well. We talked about that. So I mean, that took a lot of strength, even to get up and go back into the very city Iconium where he was beaten at the first, and then go back and continue to preach there. The guy suffered a lot, and for him to say at the end of his life that he has fought the good fight, I mean, the man went out active. That's the first thing I think about. He went out active, and so I definitely appreciate that, man. I guess as we come to a close, one of the things that I want to ask you is, what advice, what practical advice, what nuggets of wisdom would you give to students like myself, Christians like myself, who are actively pursuing a career, pursuing a degree in this field of wellness and fitness overall. I told you before that I'm pursuing, the bachelor's in kinesiology and hopefully PT school. I mean, what advice do you have as far as like the training aspect of it, the opportunities that we need to seek out, things of that nature?
Sure. Um, I encourage, even if you want to go on to, as you say, to become a physical therapist, or most of my students are physical therapy, occupational therapy, strength and conditioning coaches, athletic trainers. I still encourage them. You can do that. Perfect. Go pursue that. That's great. But go ahead and get a personal training certification, because you're going to need it. If nothing else, it's going to teach you how to deal with people, work with people one-on-one. And in all those fields that I just mentioned, you're going to work with people one-on-one. So it'll help you with that. Plus, you're going to have a leg up on your competition if you know certain exercises that will help. All of those fields involve or should be teaching their clients how to not only rehab, but also once they're done, what can I do to make sure I don't come back to you again, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing I would recommend is you put a focus on business skills too. So if you're not taking any sort of marketing, finance courses to learn how to manage your money, and maybe you come out, you don't have to go work for someone else. There's no etched in stone that says the path is graduate, go work for a company, then go off on your own. You could potentially go off on your own if you know the right way of going about doing it, so you can save yourself a step with that. So that's usually what I recommend. It's easier than what most people think. I think people still think they have to go work for someone else and then go off on their own. I know that was my thought process. But you can, nowadays, you can do it almost immediately. I mean, there are people who are doing it every day. So those are probably my two biggest pieces of advice for individuals in the exercise science, kinesiology, in the kinesiology world. Getting that personal training certification. From a financial standpoint, I have probably, and this is not knocking any of athletic trainers or anything like that, from a financial standpoint and from a time standpoint, I would venture to say my career as a personal trainer has probably been more rewarding than some of my friends that are physical therapists, or athletic trainers, um, who have switched over and now are more so on the personal training side. So just, something to consider.
Well, hey man, look, that's what we want to do. So, I mean, it's good talking to people who has the wisdom to share, especially in this field, because it's something that's often overlooked. I mean, just the human body in general gets overlooked a lot, and I mean, we walk around in this every day, so
Yeah,
we need to be able to at least know how to take care of ourselves, and then obviously, if you have the talent, the strength, and the intellect to be able to take care of other people, then by all means do that. So Maurice, look, man, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time to answer these questions, to be transparent and stuff like that. It's very helpful. So, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you.
man, no problem. Thank you for having me again.